In sharp contrast to powered aircraft, man-powered machines seemed a dismal failure. Maybe it was impossible. Maybe the equation could not be made to balance. By late in 1976, in great secrecy, another more radical approach was being tried. This time, the designer was Californian Paul McCrady, a scientist and businessman who was 3 times national gliding champion.
And it'll fit in the hangar here without too much trouble.
Like Kachenik, he got the idea from hang gliding. Hang gliders, he knew, need about 1.5 horsepower to keep aloft, 3 times a man's capacity. But he could cut the power needed by flying very slowly and cutting drag. To maintain lift at the low speed, he would need a wing 3 times larger than a hang glider, but still the same weight. Weight reduction became McCrady's prime objective. The computer-designed airfoil was a single sheet of very thin but very strong mylar. Adhesive tape was all that was needed to stick it together. This had the advantage that modifications and repairs after accidents could be made quickly and cheaply.
Okay.
The framework was the thinnest aluminum tubing possible, braced with steel piano wire, also quick and cheap to repair and modify. This was an advantage that was to prove crucial. Another important feature was that there was little or no strength in the wing itself. The central aluminum king post took the strain. On the ground, the wing would hang from the wires attached to the top of the pole. In the air, the weight of the pilot would hang from the wires attached to the bottom of the pole from the underside of the wing. The absence of load-bearing spars in the wings saved a huge amount of weight. It was quite unlike any other craft. The overall weight, a mere 70 pounds, less than 1/2 that of Jupiter. The power supply, in the form of McCrady's young son Tyler, was attached to the plane in December 1976 for the first test flight.
Pour attention on it all when you can. Down a little. Up a little. Down a little. You're flying all this time. Okay, let's leave it at that. Too much wind.
From the very first, it needed almost no takeoff run. It floated into the air.
Okay, I'm not pulling it all now. You're doing all the work. Try go a little faster, 7.5 or so.
Ooh, we go fast, we go up.
They called their craft the GossamerCondor.
Can you read the airspeed? Okay, sock it to it. Left. Nope, straight, yes.
It's just going down.
Down nose, down nose, down nose. Hold down, okay. When it gets close, the prop gets awfully close. Not so high. Full right. You're flying.
The Condor was essentially a developed hang glider with a prop on the back. The low-weight strategy was successful. At low speed, drag was minimized, and lift was adequate.
Full left! Full!
On this plane, a crash was hardly a crash at all. But clearly, a little increase in power would help.
Tyler? Yeah, that's my son. Jeff, Rockwell, Greg Miller.
Yeah, Miller.
Miller, okay.
Yeah, so you've flown that thing, huh?
Yeah.
It's hard to steer?
Just try and keep it going in a straight line.
Greg Miller was a champion racing cyclist who could produce the required power at little extra weight.
You're flying all by yourself.
But unlike the young Tyler McCrady, he had no experience in flying.
You're up too much. A little.
Nonetheless, he learned and joined the team as the main pilot.
Grab it, Kurt.
Jeez.
All right.
All right.
Down.
Heard anything?
No. I heard something snap up there in the wing.
In the winter months of 1977, test flying continued, often late at night or before dawn, when the air was at its stillest. Innumerable modifications and different versions of the plane were made.
Oh.
Well, some of the airfoil is like that.
The plastic airfoil especially gave trouble, as it was stretching and distorting in different places, reducing efficiency. Components that broke had to be made stronger, and that meant heavier. Depression began to set in on the design team and the pilots. But slowly their efforts were rewarded with long, steady flights by Greg Miller. If he kept to the right speed, he found he could go on and on.
It'll cheer him up. He was wondering where all his muscle was today.
It was the slowest flying plane in the world, between 7 and 10 miles per hour. But it flew and flew.
6717.
Yeah, wonder how long that was.
5 acres.
Just about 3 minutes.
I think we better send a car expedition.
So confident were they that in January 1977, they went for their first ever attempt on the Kramer
I
Prize.
don't know that he wants to.
Those are the rules. And, yeah, I've got some.
Those who were in the know came out to watch.
But you probably won't try the major thing today, just a straight fly? Oh, you are going to?
We're going to try it. We're going to lay out the course, take the vehicle out, try the thing. But there's been nowhere near enough flight practice with the vehicle and with the guy to give us a good chance.
Only up to here, there.
The plane was ready. The course was laid out. The judges came from the local Air Force base. They had been designated by the Royal Aeronautical Society in London. Shortly after dawn, January 14, 1977, Greg Miller was ready in the hot seat.
Yeah.
Ropes.
Well, should I go 10 and then come down?
Yeah. He'll probably put it up.
Okay.
Watch it and try and keep the wings level because there's too much wind. Leading it. Yeah, that's okay. It got up too big an angle.
Too big of an angle?
After you got up in the air, and that slowed it down and stalled it.
Should I get out or?
No, I think I can just drag it back.
But the wind was already too strong, and the attempt had to be abandoned, at least for that day. There followed several more attempts, accompanied by constant computer analysis. They were working on the margins of flight, and with the slightest breath of wind, the Gossamer Condor became uncontrollable.
Much too steep. That's a stall. Keep holding him. Oh, gee. Keep the prop from hurting. Oh, pull it. Grab it.
Obviously, something had to be done about the lack of control at such slow speed. Paul McCready listened to all the suggestions for modifications that his design team made. Except when it was flying straight and level in zero wind conditions, the Gossamer Condor behaved more like a feather than an airplane. Just banking the huge wings was difficult because of the resistance of the great mass of air that had to be displaced, an effect known as apparent mass.
I was thinking about it for the last 3 weeks or so as we were worrying about the control configurations, but wasn't aware of it as a huge problem until the tests that were done last Friday. So Friday night really began trying to work on it, estimate its magnitude, and then yesterday worked it all out and decided on this new configuration. This is a model that we did a few little flight tests with, same stabilizer but stuck down lower so it's in ground effect a little more, and its wake inhibits or hurts the wing less, also doesn't hurt the prop efficiency. As to the wing, we've decreased the chord at the root from about that large to what you see, but at the tip it's smaller still, so it has less total area. You fly a little faster, but the small chord at the tip in particular cuts down the apparent mass effect and the roll damping, so it makes it much more responsive to controls. Just the small ailerons actually roll this vehicle properly, whereas huge ailerons it would not have much effect at all on the present vehicle due to these inertia effects primarily. The apparent mass effect on an ordinary airplane, even on an ordinary man-powered airplane flying at 16 or 20 miles an hour is pretty much negligible because it's smaller than the inertia of the wing, or the roll inertia. In our case, the apparent mass is much larger because we've gone to such a large wing. Nobody's ever tried to fly a plane that only flies at 8 miles an hour before, or even 6 miles an hour. When you do, you have to get into this problem, though nobody had ever confronted it before, there, as far as I know.
First came a change of location. The bundles of tubes and the plastic sheeting were loaded into a truck and taken to a new airfield at Shafter, near Bakersfield in the Central Valley. Not only was there more hangar space, but the weather here was better. The cold air from the mountains did not roll down across the airfield when the sun rose each morning. Early mornings had become routine for the ground crew and pilots, but one such morning saw a brand new plane on the runway. The thinner main wing was now swept back instead of being straight, and the small foreplane, known as a canard wing, was much closer to the ground. The wingtip ailerons had not made their appearance after all. As the plane was to fly a little faster, the pilot and all the drive mechanisms around him had to be enclosed in plastic to reduce the extra drag generated. Every alteration affects everything else. But did McCready get it right? He had already spent several thousands of dollars, and the Kramer Prize was beginning to look not so large. He was working at the frontiers of knowledge, and that can be a lonely place. He is a quiet man, and his friends sometimes found it difficult to know what he was thinking. The airfoil was now smoother, with a more effective double skin. This also meant that only a single aluminum spar was needed between the two layers, cutting down on weight.
Where it's going to be very hard to pick up speed.
It took a few tries to master the new machine, but it quickly became clear that it was much more stable, and it was beginning to make turns. The canard at the front was much lower, so that its airflow did not affect the wing. As the pilot tilted it, it pulled the plane slowly round after it. Before long, the new version of the Gossamer Condor had flown further and longer than all the other man-powered machines put together. It had made one flight of over 5 minutes, and it had managed a couple of 180-degree turns. It was time for another attempt on the Kramer Prize. This time, takeoff is perfect.
That's good. Point it down. Point it down. It gets easier. Turn left.
Urged on by the designer, the Gossamer Condor, with Greg Miller at the controls, climbs towards the first obstacle on the course, the 10-foot-high pole. "3 feet to spare.
Stop pedaling! Stop pedaling! Full left!
Oh, shit! Oh!
Gee.
God damn it! Oh, shit!
No, that wasn't your fault. You did everything right. The control wasn't enough. Try and hold it up a little. Hold it up. Lloyd, you try and get him out and get the weight on. Oh, yeah.
Nothing you can do about it, don't we?
Somebody got the dolly. That's okay, we fixed them in 6 hours. There's a defect which we should have seen because every time and the end of the flight on the previous day, the right wing was going down a bit. There wasn't enough left to control, and that was the case here.
It just wouldn't go left. I had a
Yeah, I know. It had a full left, and it wouldn't.
God.
So, let's see. Can you hold this wing? This wing's perfectly okay, but I got to get the other wing.
What a day.
But it was not a total disaster. For one thing, the plane could quickly be rebuilt. For another, they realized that there was a slight twist in one of the wings, which had been pulling the aircraft to the right. The canard had been unable to overcome the pull. Even larger control forces were needed.
Of course, in 6 minutes.
I know.
6 minutes. That's only 1 minute more than you flew. Yeah, and with less power.
We zapped out there, when we took off the
Yeah.
air. That was just super easy.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, see you guys later.
Yep.
Give me a call, Paul.
Will do.
You need me.
Yeah, thanks.
Where are the nails, Bill?
There are some on the table, right-hand side.
Unfortunately, Greg had to leave for Belgium to continue his professional cycling career. So the project lost the pilot that had done most of the development flying. By a stroke of luck, a new one was found in 24-year-old Brian Allen. He, too, was a racing cyclist, but he was also very experienced at hang gliding. He lived close to the airport and was unemployed at the time, and he weighed only 135 pounds. He took to the Condor like a duck to water, and was soon pedaling it all over the airfield. The strange craft became a common sight to the people of Shafter. However, although it was stable and controllable in level flight, the big turns were still a problem.
Well, he was giving hard over on the yoke. Oh, absolutely, but the foreplane was not moving very much.
Just doesn't seem to provide that sideways force. I think maybe we should...
No, but even if it had no sideways force before, we didn't get in a condition where the plane would be going sideways with plane would be going along with one tip down.
Left turn!
They decided that what had always been happening, even when Greg was flying, was that as the plane banked in a turn, the inside wing was traveling much more slowly and was losing lift. The plane needed more horsepower to keep it in the air at that angle, and that is just what's not available in a man-powered aircraft. Then suddenly, a new idea began to emerge.
But, you see, less important than that to me is twist of the wing. It seems to me that with a swept wing, you have so much more control of the angle of incidence than you think you do by means of twist. Wash in and wash out. That those two wires which are now on there with which you can just stand and twist the wing several degrees look like the clue to me.
That's possible.
And one of the things that John and I were talking about in there is the possibility of trying to rig the control wires in such a way that you deliberately take advantage of that effect.
Yes.
And that may still be a possibility.
After computer analysis, they fitted a small lever under the seat, which by pulling on the wires put a fixed amount of twist in the wing. It worked. Pull the lever either way, and you have a perfect banking turn. The twist increases the angle of attack of the inside wing. This produces extra drag, which pulls it back and turns the whole aircraft. But it also produces the extra lift required to compensate for the slower speed. The Condor had never looked happier. A cable had come off a pulley, but Brian Allen was neither hurt nor dismayed.
It is remarkably easy, just the actual control inputs that you have to give to it. I think it's probably just about the easiest machine to fly ever made.
So another try at the Kramer Prize seemed worthwhile. This was the 9th, and the judges were getting a little irritated at being called out.
500 between 11 and 8.
Come on, Brian! Come on, Brian! Up, Brian! Come on!
went well with both turns, but there suddenly seemed some doubt as to whether he would make the last 10-foot marker.
I couldn't see the pole, man.
I know.
And everybody was yelling up 1, 2, 3, 4.
Come on.
And I didn't know where it was, man.
I know.
Did I make it?
Bill, did he make it?
Not quite.
No, not quite. No. Come on, let's get out.
But on the 23rd of August, 1977, their 10th attempt came. Some small last-minute modification by Paul McCready, and Brian was off.
Just sit up there for a long time. Come on, over where it's gone on. All day long. Before we could see a shadow where it was. A couple times.
6 minutes later, he had completed both turns, and he was in the home stretch.
Come on, Brian! Come on, Brian! Come on! Pump it up there! Come on!
Ahead of him, only the last 10-foot barrier.
Come on, Brian! Come on, Brian! Pump it up there! Come on, Brian!
2 feet!
3 months later, the project members climbed aboard a plane that was to fly them in a conventional manner to London. They came to a building just off Piccadilly at Hyde Park Corner. On the evening of November the 30th, 1977, they were to be presented with the £50,000 Kramer Prize by Prince Charles. But first, here at the Royal Aeronautical Society's headquarters, where it all began, they met other man-powered aircraft designers and enthusiasts.
He finally did it by landing completely straight down, just went plumb, helping to solve some of the problems of turns.
Is the Reynolds number of your wires so low that they're operating at a fairly low drag coefficient?
The drag coefficient's 1.2.
Maybe that's part of what makes your section.
The success of the Gossamer Condor means the end of a chapter. But the story of man-powered flight is just beginning. There will be new goals to be attained. And the designers and pilots who first struggled into the air will not be forgotten.